Hi, Christine. How are you?
Oh,
There you go.
is that better?
That's perfect.
Okay. How are you?
Good. So I wanted to hold on for 1 second. Yes, that. When Pam goes on and I go on, there's an echo. I can hear myself in the other room, and Pam hears me and that. So you got to shut the door.
Tell Pam I said hi.
Oh, she's.
Hi there, how are you?
Good, Pam. How are you?
Good, good.
So Christine, the interviews have gone. So I wanted to talk about this now because I don't want it on live TV.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
And Mike was saying too, he's like, just say that you got a good pool of candidates, and we're going through the entire interview, going through the entire process.
Okay.
So, but I will say, next Monday at 1 o'clock, we're gonna bring in the 3 finalists, because with all the candidates, there weren't many that had the particulars we were looking for.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which was fine. We had 6 and we've brought it down to 3.
Okay.
So we're not on live TV yet, are we? Or
I don't believe so.
no?
Colin's here, though. Do you see Colin?
I see Colin.
Yeah, everybody can hear me?
So
Hi, Colin.
Providence, I guess so. We are expecting Kevin
Or Saturday Night Live, I guess.
Count you down like
Yeah,
5.
cold open. All right, there we go. Speaking of. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for those who have joined us for our Board of Trustees meeting for the Boyden Library. It is 7:01 and we are called to order. I want to welcome George from Town Hall and Alex and Michelle from Newcomb joining us for certain parts of our meeting. And as always, Janice from the Friends. Thank you. So we'll start on our agenda today. Start with public input. Is there any public input that we have for today? Hearing none, we'll move on to our guest from Bartholomew to talk about the update and performance of the trust funds for the library.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. My name is Michelle Newcomb, and I want to give you just a quick overview for those that might be watching that don't know who we are as a firm. So Bartholomew & Company is an independent investment advisory firm based in Worcester, Massachusetts. And we have been in business since 1994, managing municipal funds for over 260 municipal entities across the state. Currently, our firm is managing just over $3 billion assets under management. And of that $3 billion, over $1.7 billion represents municipal funds. So we have a very broad base of municipal clients. We have a deep understanding of Mass General law and how municipalities can invest. And we've been working with the town of Foxborough for some time on the town side and as well as the library, which we're very appreciative of. So what we're going to be doing tonight is reviewing the performance of the library's trust funds. And we sent out material ahead of time, the performance report for the month ending for September 30th, so that you can have the most up-to-date numbers. And so this performance report really shows how the account is invested. I'm sure Alex will get a little bit into some market and economy update as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alex and let him review the performance of the account.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening, everyone, again. Glad to be in front of you tonight. I'm sure you all have a PDF copy. I'm not sure if anyone's going to be sharing their screen necessarily, but I'll reference page numbers if not, from September 30th performance report. Starting right in it on page 2, we have the portfolio allocation. And please, at any time, stop me throughout as I go through this with any questions that you may have. At the end of September 30th, with everything that has happened in fiscal year 20 and calendar year 20, we have a little under $728,000 the portfolio value. At the end of the fiscal year, 3 months prior, $718,000. And the main differences that we want to talk about, in the last period of time and moving forward as we look to this zero interest rate environment for the foreseeable future, is the best opportunities for yield from a risk and return perspective is going to continue to be in corporate fixed income, corporate bonds, common stock, and we barbell that exposure, that risk exposure, whether it's equity volatility in the common stock allocation or if it's credit risk in the corporate bond exposure with treasuries, agencies, and FDIC insured CDs. Certainly, our job is to keep this portfolio invested, so we keep cash at a minimum. But even over this 3-month time period, at the bottom of page 2, you can really see how the current yield is already starting to trickle downward. Now there's a 2-pronged reason for that. Number one, reinvestments into the market at current rates, which is effectively zero, as well as price appreciation in some of these parts of the portfolio. So, 1.95% current yield at the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, 2020. At the end of the last quarter here, September 30th, it was already down to 182. And we'll see on subsequent pages, the yield to maturity of individual fixed income in the portfolio is actually a lot different than that, a lot lower than that. Again, if you look at the current yield asset class by asset class here, you're going to continue to see the most attractive, far and away, is the equity exposure from a cash flow perspective. Now, this grouping of equities haven't exactly performed admirably throughout the pandemic. There are some bright spots, but we don't have the ability to invest in the type of sectors or companies that have really benefited from the pandemic, like technology and a vast array of healthcare. We do have some healthcare companies that have done well, but you'd be surprised. But the Mercks and the Pfizers and the Eli Lillys of the world have had some difficult years. Today was a tough day for Johnson & Johnson because of what's happened with their vaccine trials. So our ability to generate cash flow using equity is still very, very good. Total return we'll have to see going forward. But it is going to be an integral part of the portfolio as we live through another zero interest rate environment between now and at least the end of 2023, as the Fed has indicated. So what you should continue to see going forward, again, is that barbell approach between risk from common stock, corporate bonds, and the government securities. The bond fund that we've bought since the end of fiscal year is actually a Treasury ETF, inflation protected Treasury ETF, which you will see later in the portfolio holdings. As I move on to page 3, this is a high level summary of the portfolio, inception to date on the left and in the graph below, and then fiscal year to date, which is just the last quarter on the right. So with this account opening in May of 2017, we've now lived through calendar year 2018, which was the worst period of performance since 2008 on the 10-year anniversary. And then, of course, everything that's happened thus far. So visually below, you can see the growth of the portfolio in the blue line in relation to the net flows of the portfolio below that. As bad as really the first quarter was, March of 2020 was, we still didn't come to what the library contributed to the portfolio because this still is, at the end of the day, 80% invested in fixed income and cash. So fiscal year to date up 1.38%. On the right-hand side, annualized performance since inception a little over 2%. With everything that's happened, that's good, not great. I would like to see better performance going forward from that equity bucket, and it's certainly been a drag on performance year to date. Moving on to page 4, this is a high-level summary of the bond allocation. One thing that, yes,
Sorry,
please.
before we do that, Colin, if I can, do you want me to throw this up on my screen?
Sure.
I don't know that Alex will be talking, so I'm not sure how that will work for cable access, but I should be able to show it through the box that's me. I don't know if it'll be legible, but hold on just a second. No, I have been disabled for screening. Sorry. So I'm not the host, so I can't do it.
Okay.
I'll try to share my screen with you, Kevin.
If you look down below, Manny, there's a where the mute and stop video lines are in the participant code, right? In the middle, there's a green button called share screen.
Yep.
And that should allow you to put the PDF
okay.
up.
All right. Let me get that.
So, yeah, so we've got your backdrop right now.
Oh, I think this is Foxborough cable.
Okay. So then let's clear out of that. Paul Beck is operating as the voice from beyond. We're making his life complicated, I think.
Okay, here we go.
So he's going to swing us back to our other platform.
Here we go.
We're still on his screen. So sorry, Paul. Is it as simple as, Manny, have you turned shared screen off?
Yeah, so now I'm sharing actually my screen. So I'm just waiting for Foxborough Cable to stop sharing, and then mine will.
This is the problem, is Foxborough Cable is too willing to share. That looks like that's it.
So now I'm going to share mine. Okay.
There you go.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, if you please stay right there on that fixed income summary page, page 4 of 11. One thing that we always do like to point out is that the CD allocation on the left-hand side, which is that yellow gold, very appropriate autumn color, is directly lines up to the penny of the not rated under the credit quality table. Doesn't mean that it's below investment grade, simply that CDs are not rated by the major rating agencies, but they all are FDIC insured. Obviously, from an S&P perspective, Standard & Poor's, they consider the Treasury and government agencies to be AA+, and really everything in between is your corporate exposure, between AA- and BBB+. But everything is investment grade or higher in your fixed income allocation, and certainly, so it's a high grade, conservative, short duration portfolio inside of well inside of 5 years on a duration, and we'll see that on the next page, page 5, if you wouldn't mind scrolling down to that. Thank you. So this is the big point where I wanted to show you. If you remember earlier, the portfolio current yield as of September 30th was stated at 1.82%. If you looked at the yield to maturity, the YTM average on either of these tables at the top of the screen, you're going to see 64 basis points. That's more representative of the total return that you can expect from the fixed income portion of the portfolio. So this isn't incorporating cash, it isn't incorporating the equity exposure, but because of how expensive bonds are right now, because of the interest rate market, this is a better representation of interest rates. Current yield sometimes can be a little misleading. And the duration average 2.21, still a very short portfolio from my perspective. But in this zero interest rate environment, when we have such long forward guidance from the Fed, we shouldn't necessarily be afraid of duration right now, even though it's not exciting to buy, something with a long maturity date at these current levels. We do have forward guidance that interest rates aren't necessarily going anywhere. There's an argument for different parts of the curve fluctuating from here, but nothing necessarily that we are going to be, investing in. We're not buying 10-year bonds, 15-year bonds, or longer than that. And so that I want to bring that to your attention, simply because this may impact the library. I understand that. The zero interest rate environment, again, depending on your distribution on an annual basis and your intent for these assets going forward. Return expectations are probably a lot lower than they were even 12 months ago. So if you don't mind scrolling to page 6. So this is the performance summary of trailing performance. Fiscal year to date 21, which is really just the last 3 months, up 1.38%. Year to date calendar year 2020, through the first 9 months, up 87 basis points. And the biggest reason for that lag to that fixed income benchmark there of 3% is the equity exposure. The dividend paying stocks, the non-growth stocks, the companies that really have been hit hardest by this pandemic, and stay-at-home orders like retail, financials, consumer staples. We're talking about Procter & Gamble and those types of companies have really struggled and performed poorly. There are some bright spots on our 21-22 company list that we can buy from, but they are few and far between, unfortunately. But the long-term performance, outperforming inflation is what we're trying to achieve here. Grow your purchasing power without taking a tremendous amount of risk. So I can, again, please stop me at any time if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'll keep going through. Performance history report on page 7, please. This is really just the same data broken down year by year instead of trailing periods. So you can see the dramatic difference we've had in the last 3 years. Again, 2018, you can kind of see on the right 2 columns there of the Dow and the International Equity Index were the worst years in performance since 2008. This portfolio was down 57 basis points, but then the strong rebound of almost all asset classes in 2019, this portfolio up 6.5%. I mean, that makes up a large majority of the performance that this portfolio has experienced since May of 2017, all in calendar year 2019. The portfolio cumulatively is up 7.57% through September 30th. 6.5 of that came in that 12-month period. And then year to date up 87 basis points. So the last 3 years have really been a dramatic roller coaster of returns and volatility. The fourth quarter of 2018, the strong rebound after that. And this market and this economy, without obviously the pandemic, unfortunately, was really headed in a very strong direction. So it's certainly unfortunate on a number of levels. But from an economic and market perspective, it's going to be a difficult path forward. It really is. Thankfully, this portfolio is conservative. The volatility it did experience in March, was less than it otherwise could have been. But the rebound has been muted based on our ability to diversify the equity allocation. Going forward on page 8, we start to look at the portfolio holdings. There in that second section under bond fund is that ETF, that exchange traded fund that I was referencing earlier of 0 to 5 year Treasury inflation protected securities. One of the things that we have in terms of forward guidance from the Federal Reserve Bank is that they've acknowledged they have to allow inflation to maintain a sustained level above their 2% target in order to average 2%. Because inflation has been so low for so long post 2008. And one of the mechanisms that we have as a society, an economic system, to overcome the trillions of dollars that have been spent either from the Federal Reserve on supporting the markets or Congress in fiscal stimulus is through inflation. And they really do have to allow inflation to be higher than they have in the past. And that's just one of their mechanisms to overcome this, the balance sheet and the deficit. And so as part of that, we wanted to establish a position for inflation protection. Equities as an asset class will provide inflation protection, but this is just another way that we are, trying to diversify the portfolio out. We feel like it's a better exposure in treasuries than straight treasuries right now because a 3-year treasury is at 20 basis points. And that's not going to get any of us where we want to be in the long term. So, unfortunately right now we're making those trade-offs in fixed income where you do want to buy a 5-year treasury at 30 basis points or you want to buy a 5-year corporate bond at 90 or 80. Those are the trade-offs that we're trying to make. And if we continue to diversify the portfolio in terms of maturity, issuance, structure, asset class, and complement that with an equity allocation that we hopefully can generate somewhere in an annualized return north of 6% on that asset class, this portfolio will substantially outperform cash over the next 3 to 5 years, which is really the other options for this type of money under the legal list, under the law, under Chapter 4454. So I know there's a lot of different things I could cover economics-wise. The election coming up, I'm sure there's a lot of questions to that, but I will pause here to see if there are any specific questions that you guys have.
Any questions from the board? no questions at this point.
Okay. Any concerns?
I just want to quickly say for anybody who might be watching from home, and Alex really was just touched on this, and I just want to expand a little bit, is that these particular funds are restricted by Mass General law and how they can be invested, because I think there could be some people who look at this and think, well, why is this invested so conservatively and so in such a restricted way? But it is all driven by Mass General law and having to abide to what is called the Massachusetts Legal List of Investments. And so it is very conservative and very restrictive. And so I just wanted to make sure that that point was explained just a little bit further.
Thanks,
Yeah, I
Michelle.
might add.
I was gonna make that same point, and I appreciate you guys going ahead and doing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I might add that Bartholomew was one of the few who are actually allowed to. I've worked for several different towns, and it always seems like the only ones that the treasurers are utilizing is the Bartholomew group, because they're, I'm not saying that there isn't anyone else, but it seems like predominantly it's Bartholomew, and as you said, you have to follow a certain structure because we are investing public money, and we can't go out and do the real wild stuff to see if we can make a huge profit and possibly lose it.
Right. Well, thank you so much, George. We appreciate your comments. It is truly about safety, liquidity, and then yield when it comes to these types of monies. And it's not very exciting, but it gets the job done.
And you might add in there, like you said before, we also have our OPEB trust, which is someplace close to 10 million. And you folks have done a pretty good job with it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that fortunately can be invested a lot differently, and has had a much different experience here in 2020.
Yeah.
But I think along with that, if I recall correctly, and Michelle and Alex, I'll ask you guys if there's anything you want to expound on this. But I believe part of the reason why we do business with Bartholomew, two reasons. One, because of your knowledge base and your expertise with respect to how these funds that the library holds can be invested in. Two, because of the unique relationship that we have with Town Hall and the ability to partner up to get a better rate of return. Well, not a guaranteed rate of return, but a better return leverage on the fee that goes associated with our using you guys as an investment house as well. And that's been a real benefit for the Beyond Books funds. And part of the reason why that partnership with the town and with you is so successful, even though we'd all love to see it be 6.5% on an annual return, right? There are years where, or more, there are years when it, the market doesn't dictate that that's a flexible thing to have happen. But this is a long-term investment and a very healthy relationship because of that partnership between Bartholomew, the town, and the library.
Yes, we look at our municipal relationships as a whole. So when we have entities within, for example, the town, where we're managing money through Town Hall and the town treasurer, but then there are other entities within that municipality that want to do business with us, we group that all together when we're looking at our fees to help the municipality save money across the board, in any way that they can. So we appreciate the relationship very much. Any other questions? Anything that we can answer? We're always happy to be a part of any meeting, at any time that you need us to. It doesn't have to necessarily just be once a year, but know that we're just a phone call away and always happy to participate.
Appreciate it. And I think Kevin said it well in terms of the benefits of this partnership, and appreciate the work that you're doing in an usually restrictive environment is unusually challenging this year. So
Yeah.
Appreciate the stewardship and the walkthrough on how things are trending this year. Really helpful, Michelle.
Great. You're welcome. Well, thank you again for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for joining us, George.
Okay, have a great evening. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
You
Nice
too.
to see you.
Enjoy the cake.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will
And
do
the
my
cleanup.
best. Thank you.
Good night.
All right. Excellent. That was helpful. Any wrap-up comments or thoughts on any of that before we move on? No.
I would just say in the nature of the way government is operating and the deficit positions you're seeing on investments today, I mean, I know there's been a pretty strong rebound on private markets. This is a very healthy portfolio, it seems to me. And again, this goes, we talked last month about being mindful of what we spend the funds on. And this goes to that notion of making sure it's a planned expenditure, making sure that it's not necessarily a reoccurring expenditure, and making it be something that grows over time. So I have no reservations about what they're presenting. I'm surprised actually that the deviation isn't lower.
Good. All right. Why don't we move on to our next agenda item? Minutes. We have 2 minutes, 2 groups of minutes. I don't know how you can say that. First is way back when, to March 20th, 2020. It's a nice walk down memory lane. Any comments, corrections, edits to the March 2020 minutes? We have a motion to approve said minutes.
So moved.
Mr. Penders, second by Psycho Freeman, all in favor. 4-0-0. All right, and now the minutes from last month's meeting, September 8th, 2020. Any comments, corrections, changes? Motion to approve September 8th minutes.
So moved.
Penders, second by Ms. Stone. All in favor? 4-0-0. Thank you. All right, on to correspondence. Manny, have we any correspondence?
There was a card from Margie thanking the trustees. So I will, next time I see you, Colin, or if any of the trustees swing by the library, I'll hand you the card. But it's she's just thanking the support throughout the years the board has for the library, and especially the children's department. And yeah.
Very nice. Okay. No other correspondence. We'll move on to Janice and our friends report, please.
There we go. Well, I'm glad to say that we're starting to get some income. The bookshop's doing pretty well. Our bookseller, Adam, came in a few weeks ago and he took quite a few books. So hopefully those will start selling on Amazon. There was a, Gary, was it The Far Side, Gary Larson? And it was like 2 big books. It was like a compilation. And when he scanned it, it popped up as $180. So I hope that sells. We also have done well with the zoo tickets. We sold, I think, all of them. So we purchased a second block of 50. So we're really happy that those, people were using those, and that we could help out with that. The newsletter will go out this month. And then our big thing was we did that book sale survey. I don't know if any of you saw it, but we had 348 people respond to this survey, which was very, very nice. Of those, 70% are people that had attended sales in the past. 86% indicated they were interested in attending a sale. And 88% were at least somewhat comfortable at attending a sale, with 40% saying they were very comfortable. So, and we assured them that we would be using all the protocols. We're going to have people sign up so that we can limit the number of people at any one time. So I think it's going to be really It'd be really nice to be able to hold the book sale. I talked to Leslie Ann at length yesterday, and she was going to reach out to Manny with some thoughts that she had with thinking of even, originally we were scheduled for, I think it's the 17th of November, and we were thinking of moving it up to earlier in the month. But whatever, once we get the framework in place, the execution shouldn't be difficult.
Janice, can I ask a question on that?
You can.
Have you given any, and I'm sure you have, so it's, what is your thought in terms of how that would play out in the building itself? And I know you guys have to talk and coordinate that with Manny, but where the Friends room is being used to rehabilitate returns currently.
Okay. So what we were thinking, and I've talked to Manny a little bit about this, is using that where Maggie's party was. It's called the reading. Is that the reading room, the reading area? Because
Reading room.
that is, we're going to pare down. We won't be having all the books or by any means.
Okay, yep.
We're going to focus on fiction and select nonfiction and children's. So we would have all the adult in that area. And then we would use the cafe for the children's, and that way we could spread them out. And those areas are very open and airy too, because when I think about like the Fuller, I mean that's really tight. So this is going to be better. Also, someone had suggested, and I thought it was a great idea, and I think we're going to go with it. Is rather than people bringing the books up and then we sit there and we touch them all as we count them. We're going to have people, an honor system. We'll give them a tally card and they come up and they say, I owe $5, and they give us $5. So we won't be having to, touch their books. And of course, then, they can quarantine them when they get home if they feel so inclined. And so we probably, like I said, we'll probably have children and adult fiction, some nonfiction topics that we got, the most interest in the survey, and the DVDs. So is there any more questions on that? I'm trying to think. I think those were the key points of what and we'll have just a few people. We'll have somebody like kind of making sure that people, like if you come and you do not have an appointment, if there is space, you'll be allowed in, but you would if there isn't, you would be turned away or have to wait. So we don't, I don't anticipate, I think that people will sign up. And given the way the library has been, I don't think all of a sudden it's going to, we're going to have 50 people show up. It'll be spread out over the 3 days. There's probably Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And we're not going to do the bag sale at the end, because that wouldn't be fair. You have an appointment, you don't. So we just won't do a bag sale. So I think that's the big thing that we're working on now. And the other thing, we reached out to the discretionary fund, and they are not going to do the toy collection. However, they're going to do it by way of gift cards. So they will still be collecting people's, a child's sex and age. And what they're going to do is they're going to ask for their interests and then ask people to buy a gift card that would support that interest. So we are going to have the giving tree, and we'll be collecting just gift cards and turning them over to the discretionary fund. The last thing is that Margie used to always do a book collection of new books, and the discretionary fund will not take those books. So Colleen is the chair of the Giving Tree, and she was going to reach out. And I also talked to Leslie Ann, and we're going to look to see if we collect the books, can we pass them out either through the schools, like Leslie Ann suggested, maybe the guidance department would know who might need a book and would take some of the books. So before we give up on it, we're going to see if there's another way we can do that. Any questions? That's it.
Just a couple of comments and questions. First of all, really well thought out in terms of how to kind of rethink the book drive in this situation. I really appreciate all the thought that's gone into that. It'll be great to have that event and community gathering back in the library. So thanks for all the work on that. One suggestion or thought on you said you're doing the toy drive differently with the gift cards for the children and getting age and gender and interest. Is that?
Yeah.
One recommendation is maybe just age and interest, because not every child may identify gender with interest, and that's might be off-putting to some individuals who don't identify with traditional gender roles. So maybe just interest and age.
That's the discretionary fund. However they do it, they'll give it to us and we will do that. That's how they've always done it in the past. And, you know, that's their call. We just hang the information. And I know like last year, Colleen did a really good job of, she went above and beyond. So like if she ran out of name tags, she just put up things that she knew was popular and people bought those things, and we had extra things that always are used. So, and I'm so glad that we're going to be able to do it this year, because I think it's going to be needed more than ever. And that's why I don't want to give up on the books, because I think that's another thing, that the kids being at home more and not necessarily being able to use the library, it would be nice for them to be able to get, you know, a new book to have.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm really glad you're doing it. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions?
Janice, do you need a trustee rep for the November or December?
No, we don't
No,
meet in
good.
December, but I will need one for November, January, February, March. So if I could get one for November right now, that would be helpful. And then maybe you can send me a list.
Maybe can we do November and January just to get those on the books? Christine, I know you attended last meeting. I the one before that, or this past meeting, I did the one before that. Deb and Kevin, are you able to do either November or January?
I can take the January one. November would be November 4th. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I cannot do that.
Okay.
I can do November.
Great.
Perfect.
Great. Thank you.
And Manny, if we can include this again on the agenda next month, try and get some of the out months when Catherine is able to join, and we'll do February through the end of the year.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Janice.
Thanks, Janice. All right, professional staff reports.
So attached is are the staff reports. Staff's continually throughout this time purchasing items for the library. Tim's answering reference questions. Things are going smooth, and hopefully next month or the month after, we'll have someone to fill out the youth services portion of the professional report.
Any questions for Manny on the staff reports? Moving on to the financial reports. Anything you want to call our attention to financial reports, Manny?
No, I mean, it's steady as we go here. So you have the September 2020, and then you also have the book and AV breakdown. I mean, everything's going well. Pam, I didn't know if you have any questions regarding the finance report as well, but nothing sticks out. I mean, you do see under network and information already 86%, 87%. That's the sales membership fees, right up front. Same thing with databases. Databases is a little high. It's at 104. Just databases are due annually. There are annual fees, and that's why it's so high this early.
Any questions for me? All right, rolling right along the director's report, please.
Okay, so 2 items. One was a celebration for Margie for her 31 years of service here at the library. I thought it was awesome. I do want to thank a few individuals who made this possible. Number one would be Betsy Buckland in the children's department. She did such a wonderful job. And the other person who's in the other room was Pam. She arranged for Representative Jay Barrows to attend and gave a citation to Margie. She handled all the food. Betsy had this wonderful 31-minute video presentation of performers, past librarians, trustees, friends, current staff, just wishing Margie well wishes in the future. I think she was very touched by it. It was a socially distant party. If we weren't where we are right now, I would think we'd have a pretty large party for Margie because she's done so much. It was during the video of how many lives she touched throughout the years. And that's just a small sample of what she's done. And I did say and I do mean this, that she loves her job. You know, you have some individuals that say, oh, I love my job. They probably like it a lot. Margie was dedicated and loved her job here at the library. And it was a wonderful celebration. The only thing that really, she looked forward to the summer reading program every year and the teddy bear picnic. And in her final year, we couldn't have anything close to, you know, what she was working on during the summer. But it is what it is. It was a wonderful time. I do want to thank the trustees, the friends, and everyone that was involved, their generosity towards Margie. And she will be missed, but she'll still be around, which is a great thing. So that was the one item. And then the other item was I attended a webinar for a software called ClearGov. And it was for all departments in the town of Foxborough. They're going to do it's going to be a little different this coming budget season. Normally, I would enter the budget using Munis, but this software called ClearGov, it's an online web-based software system. So you still will be getting the line items. You'll still be getting the budget when budget season rolls along. It'll just look a little different, but I'll be able to modify it and add little notes here and there when it comes to the line items, and it'll be shared and the town manager and finance department will be able to view it and view the notes live as soon as I make changes. So that's coming. It seems pretty, pretty easy to use, better than Munis. I didn't have an issue with Munis, but I think a few in town had some difficulty. So we're going with this ClearGov. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but I know other municipalities do use it. And it's, like I said, it's pretty cut and dry. So I did attend a seminar for that. And after that, I've been attending a lot of webinars, weekly director meetings, either through the state, which I have one tomorrow every Wednesday, or sales, and just going over COVID procedures, any tips and tricks or any helpful hints that we can provide to our colleagues throughout the state and in the sales network. Just any obstacles that we've come across, and doesn't necessarily have to be COVID related. It's also a time to, if there's any situations that have occurred at the library in the past or something that's going to happen, we've been there to help each other out. And I know I've said this before. I think since COVID happened, we're doing these weekly meetings. I think I've had friends with directors. I have really good relationships with some of them, but they have grown, and I've been introduced to more. And we're all in this to help each other out.
It's good. There's a sense of community throughout this and helping each other through it. Any questions for Mayor comments, Kevin?
I had two, Manny. I was interested in the ClearGov, so thank you for clarifying that. Sounds a little bit like what the state comptroller uses now as well. The two questions I had, one is in your report and one is not. But so with respect to Margie and her retirement and that presentation that was put together and the celebration that is her and the fact that we're in COVID, so we can't really celebrate her the way we would necessarily want to. Has the library thought at all about maybe putting that video, if it fits, on the web page and doing some sort of a, maybe like an announcement for Margie's retirement, whether she'd be comfortable with that or not, that just sort of celebrates the fact that our 30 plus year, librarian and head of children's library services has retired, so that the town and other folks who use the resource can be even more aware of it and maybe find some way to facilitate, whether it's through a Facebook posting, through, I know Kathy does a lot of that, public media outreach, whether it's through Twitter or through Facebook posting or some other medium that we can allow the community to actually more robustly say goodbye to her.
I think that can be done. I will reach out to the individual who created this video, and maybe we can work something, having it on the website, and also, like you mentioned, on Facebook. That seems to be the place for residents to say thanks. Maybe they didn't have a chance to come in and congratulate Margie on her 30 plus years. So I think that's a good idea, creating some sort of page or maybe putting the video on there, and there's a way for comments.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not intending it to be an in memoriam. I mean, obviously, she's retired. She is not. This is not something we are in a sense of loss about her retirement, but it's not it's not an in memoriam page as much as it's a celebration page. Really, is what I was thinking about. Janice.
Unmute me. Whoops. I just was wondering if everybody saw the marquee on the Orpheum for that week, that whole week.
I did. It was awesome.
I think that was Pam's idea, and that was wonderful.
Yeah, it was great.
So I think we were able to reach out to a lot more people with that. So that was a good start.
Yeah, Kim Ferguson brought that up, and then Pam was the one who got that initiated. So both of them, Kim Ferguson, one of our employees here, mentioned that, and Pam, went to work on it, and we had a couple of messages up there for Margie.
Yeah, and I thought that was awesome, and I think that I just am, sort of thinking of ways to keep that party going a little bit, especially given the amount of commitment that she made to the Boyden Library. The second thing I was going to ask you is not in your report, but that's only because your report is, retrospective rather than prospective. My understanding, I don't know if this is the right time to talk about it, or if we talk about it under new business or something else, but I believe I saw an email sort of serving as notice to us that the Board of Selectmen are meeting with various town organizations, and that the trustees have been asked to attend on a meeting in November. I just, at the appropriate time before we adjourn tonight, whether it's now or later, would really like to get a greater sense of what that's about, what the expectations are, whether we're presenting something or being asked to do something, and just some context to it, because it's not something that the Board of Selectmen has done in my tenure. We've had to ask for meetings rather than be asked to attend them.
So this is something I'm very familiar with in East Bridgewater, and that George Samia, our finance director, came from, is every year right around budget season, each department would meet with the Board of Selectmen and basically give where we are right now, like you said, Kevin, but then also a forecast, where do we see the library in the next fiscal year? So it does give an opportunity not only to show how successful we are right now, but also look in the future as far as any anything that we're looking for the upcoming budget, any new service, any new personnel. A presentation can be done. I know this is more of like a 5 to 10 minute, sit at the table, here's the presentation, this is where we are type of thing. So, and then ours is scheduled, I believe, oh gosh.
So it's functionally that, sorry, Mandy, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just looking at the dates when it was.
I want to say it's like the 16th.
17th, yeah.
Okay. So this is functionally the Board of Selectmen's version of what we do with AdCom.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, 17th. I'm sorry.
That's helpful.
Yeah, this is something, and I wonder, I do wonder if George is the one who kind of spearheaded this, or maybe Marie, our new town accountant as well. Maybe they've done it. I believe she came from, I don't know if it was Lincoln or I forgot where she came from. So it could be from her as well. But it's just a update on where we are, where we see the library in the next upcoming fiscal year.
Okay, Christine?
So just to clarify, so is that a meeting for all the trustees need to attend?
I think if all the trustees do attend, I do think we have to, per open meeting law, that would have to be a trustee meeting as well. So if we do that, we'll have to have that posted as well.
Is that what they are requesting, or do they just need a representative? Or?
They were just asking, because we're kind of a unique, other departments, it would be the department head and maybe a few staff. So when it comes to us, and what I've seen in the past is it was myself along with the majority of the board would be sitting up at the table. So if that's the case, we'll have to create an agenda for that, which is fine. I mean, it's
Okay. Great. Anything else on the selectmen meeting or on the director's report?
I'm good.
All right, moving on to liaison reports and subcommittee reports. For either of these angles, I think we have the Board of Selectmen meeting on the 17th. Other than that, anything else we need to touch upon? Okay, moving on to old business, our Board of Trustees vacant seat. So I know, so update on this, we've had a conversation with one candidate. Both Deb and I have spoken with that individual. It's very positive conversations. I know there are some other trustees that have some folks they've spoken to in the past, so we're going to circle back to those individuals to assess their interest again, and then proceed based on what we find from those. So our hope is to, in the next few weeks, have some better clarity on process next steps, and then that meeting with the selectmen would follow once we come to some decisions there. As we talked about in our meeting last month, the process would be that Deb and I would speak with those individuals who are interested, and then put forth our recommendation to this Board of Trustees, and then move on to the Board of Selectmen meeting. I'll stop there. Questions, comments on the process there?
Colin, do you think we can wrap those two things up together, the November 17th and bringing our candidate forward? Can we combine it?
Any reason why we couldn't? Those who know process better, Kevin? Looking to you.
Selectmen meet every 2 weeks, so whether or not they want to put, one, whether or not we're ready for, or two, whether or not they would want to put the library on 2 back-to-back meetings, it seems likely that that would probably be one of the first meetings you get a chance to do both things.
Yeah.
So what? Let's work towards that. We'll see if we can move our process along and try and get the competition lined up. Okay, super. Anything else on the trustee seat? Okay. Next on to the coronavirus and library operations.
So I know I say this every month and I'm always afraid I'm going to jinx myself, but things are going very well at the library. Patrons have felt safe. Staff have felt safe since day one. If there were any questions or concerns, those would be addressed immediately. But we haven't had any issue, which is great. But we'll see what happens. You know, hopefully we can keep this streak going. So one thing that has been brought to me by some patrons, now that we're open on Saturdays, but some patrons still cannot make even Saturdays, that they were requesting maybe an evening or two that the library would be open. And I actually spoke to the director at the Walpole Library actually today to see how it's going over there, because they're open evenings now, and a few other libraries, and they haven't run into any issues. But there are patrons in our community that just simply can't make it before 5 o'clock. So in front of you this evening was a letter, and the first item on that letter would be to request that we expand our operational hours on Mondays and Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. So we would increase the library operational hours by 6 hours. And we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it goes well, and maybe next month we can increase our hours even more. But I'd like to, see what happens these 2 evenings, and if we have to pull back, we have to pull back. But so that's my request to the board this evening.
Any questions or discussion?
I have a couple.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, well, so here we are. We're post Columbus Day weekend, which is when we would normally open for Sunday hours. And obviously we're not talking about doing that at this stage, I don't believe, for any portion of Sunday hours. Is that's correct, right?
Yeah, I think because we're down a person as well, I'm being very cautious when it comes to evening hours, and then especially Sunday hours. I think once we do get a replacement for our new youth services librarian supervisor, then I think we can start entertaining and looking into Sundays reopening.
So that's 5-6 hours that we're not open, that we would be open under a normal operating schedule. On Saturdays and Fridays, we would still be closing at 5 regardless on a normal operating schedule. And then so we're only talking about expanding hours on Mondays and Wednesdays. What is it about Mondays and Wednesdays that makes those more relevant for that expanded service? And what is different about that expanded service than closing at 5 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays? In other words, why not do the added 3 hours all 4 evenings?
Well, I think, like I said, I think being down a person, because I really don't want to go through our sub budget until, we get a replacement for the supervisor. So I'm cautious about that. I looked at Mondays and Wednesdays because I did speak to staff, and they were comfortable with starting out with Mondays and Wednesdays. And then let's take it from there. If things work out, then we can certainly increase it to Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that was another issue as well, because we also have to worry about the door monitor duty as well. So that was another issue. So, I mean, that's why I'm doing Mondays and Wednesdays. It was easier for staff. Then also when it comes to the door monitoring, and then also like I said, we're down a person. So I just don't want to blow through our sub budget, because we're gonna need that near the end of the fiscal year. We do have quite a number of staff that do have a lot of vacation time. So that's going to be coming towards the end of the this fiscal year. And then also we're still in a pandemic. So I don't want to jinx it, but I hope no one on staff, gets ill in any ways. So that's another issue as well.
And
Mandy,
so,
can I ask a question? How did the reduction of those evening hours impact some salaries, I guess, some hours that people may have counted on? Those evening hours, were they staggered so that salaried folks would share those evening hours and losing them? I'm curious to know if
Yeah.
it made a dent in someone's personal hours that were
Yeah.
they wish to get back.
Absolutely not. We had staff have been working the hours that they're supposed to. They would fit it into the workday, or we had some that would work after 5 o'clock here. So we've
Oh.
had that happen as well. So yeah, staff have not lost any hours whatsoever.
Thanks.
no, this is more about access for the public than it is about
Right.
staff retention hours, right?
Yeah, I was just curious to know it should have, but it hadn't occurred to me as of yet, the impact on the staff.
I guess the other question I have based on one of the things you just said was with respect to vacation time, Manny. I'm assuming that the municipality operates on you accumulate to a certain amount under the union contract and then there's a use or lose feature.
Right.
Okay. And is that a fiscal year use or lose, or is that a calendar year for use or lose?
So it's a fiscal year, and
It is. Okay.
earlier this calendar year, the town manager did send out an email to all employees, because normally you're supposed to, as far as vacation time, get down to, you can roll over 2 weeks vacation. But because this calendar year has been such an interesting year, he waived that. So you had some staff that maybe had, including myself, I had more than 3 weeks of vacation. And normally I would have to get that down to 2 weeks, but I was able to roll that over. So I had some extra vacation days, and other staff have done that as well. So I got to take that into accountability, because I'm pretty positive he's not going to waive it at the end of this fiscal year. So we'll have to take our vacation time. Personal time is use it or lose it.
Any other questions on the proposed shift in hours? We have a motion to approve the hours as presented in Manny's letter. Moved by Deb. We can't hear you, Deb, if you have something additional to say besides I move.
I make a motion to approve the hours as Manny has put them forth.
Thanks, Deb. Second by
Second.
Christine. All in favor? Four zero zero.
Colin?
Yes.
Sorry, so I'm voting for this because I think it's important that we expand, but just as a comment on that, the hours, we've been really prudent and careful about when we're doing it. I think to the extent that staff is comfortable, to the extent that Manny is comfortable, and to the extent that it seems, I understand the argument, and so I'm voting for it because I think it makes sense to do expanded hours in the way he's suggesting. But to me, I just assume if we think the building and staff is safe, that I just assume we get to 4 nights of 8 p.m. closures, even with the reduced staffing levels and occupancy levels as quickly as we can. So I mean, I'm in favor of it from a perspective of moving in that direction, and I just want to note that if the comfortability in the building and the science works, I'd look forward to Manny bringing a proposal to do the same thing for Tuesdays and Thursday evenings. If there was a discussion about some other sort of deep clean or something that had to happen in a 3-hour window that would lend itself to why we're treating Mondays and Wednesdays differently than Tuesdays and Thursdays, that would make sense to me. But if we're not, I'd be just as inclined to see that move forward.
Okay.
Sorry, thank you for the opportunity to comment on that.
No, that's good feedback, and we ask Manny to take that under consideration as we move forward. All right, you had a second proposal, Manny.
Yeah, so the second proposal is actually something that was proposed, I want to say back in July or August. And that was the capacity for the building. It was sometime this summer. All the months this year have they all seem the same. But I did ask to increase our capacity. I think I began with 10% and then up to 20%, which was going to be 71 patrons or 71 people, including staff. And then in mid-August, the governor came out the same time when the travel bans for the various states came out to decrease the capacity. So back on September the 29th, the governor did send out another press release, and it did mention libraries would be permitted to increase our capacity up to 50%. I'm not looking for 50%. I can't see us having, at 100%, it'd be 357. So I can't see over, 120 some odd patrons in the building right now. It's not going to happen. What I would like to do is revisit what I brought up back in the summertime, and that would be to increase our capacity back to 20%, which would be 71 people. 10, 11 include staff, so we're looking at 60 in the building. We still have our door monitors, making sure that we haven't come close to reaching capacity, and also making sure that every patron that enters the building is wearing a mask / facial covering. So I'm just asking and requesting to go back to 20%, which would be 71.
Okay, discussion?
How long do we need the door monitors, Manny? As long as there's a restriction in capacity?
Yeah, I think the door monitors are going to be there for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they have them at Town Hall as well, or in the other buildings? They do.
I know they have them at Town Hall. I know
Yeah.
when you enter the building, they do have one. I do want to say that we have reached out and we worked with our Council on Aging, and we do have some tax write-off workers that are volunteering as door monitors, and that's been working very well. We're looking at a few more to add as well to that. So.
Any questions, Kevin?
So I guess thinking ahead to the potential of a library book sale and expanding capacity, Manny, you'll have to coordinate that with Janice and the Friends, obviously, to make sure that whatever we're doing to raise the headcount number here is also allowing you to have the ebb and flow that you need for the sale. But it's from the perspective of doing a good Friends event, that would be something that would be helpful.
Yes. Yeah, Janice and I have had discussions about that.
Yeah,
And
it's hard to have a successful Friends event with 30 people.
And some libraries have had book sales. The Athenaeum in the Berkshires has had a successful one, and their capacity was lower than ours. They had it by appointment only, and they had various slots. So yeah, we're looking at something a little different. Obviously, in a normal time, our book sale, we would have much more than 60 or 70 patrons in our building. But I mean, these are the times that we're in right now, but we're going to make it work. I'll be working with Janice to make sure the Friends have a successful book sale.
Can you give us a sense of what the other neighboring communities are doing with respect to their hours of service and occupancy at this point?
So we're one of the very few libraries are actually open and allowing patrons in the building and browsing. There is a neighboring town, Mansfield, that just opened up, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and they're only open 2 days a week. I think it's 9 to 12 and then 1 to 5. I know Norfolk, for the longest time, they were just doing appointment only. The Richards Library in North Attleboro, they've been open to the public longer than us, and they haven't had any issues. I know Attleboro was, first they were open to the public, but now it's by appointment only, and I don't know how many they're letting in the building because they had a few issues when it came to patrons not wearing masks and causing a ruckus.
Aren't they a red zone community too?
They are a red zone community, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, they are. There's actually a few yellows around us too. Easton, I think
Rentham,
Rentham. Yeah.
Plainville.
Yeah. Rentham's had to shut down a couple of times. So same thing with Bridgewater. The library had to shut down for a few days for a couple of scares that they had. Norton is starting to open up, but they're limited hours because half their staff have been furloughed. So they just don't have the staff to operate their library full function.
Do you have any concerns about occupancy changes or hours changes? Inviting those communities that have less resources and that are in the yellow or red to use our facilities instead?
No, because some of those communities have been yellow and red for a couple of weeks now, and we haven't had any issues.
So you're saying that
whatsoever.
library goers don't get COVID? That's what you're saying?
They have a supersonic shield that keeps them away from the COVID. So yeah. But I mean, as far as sales, I had a meeting with them last week. As far as the 39 public libraries, there are still 13 in the network that are not even doing curbside yet. They are completely closed.
So would you say that this proposal is ahead of the curve for most of those libraries? On pace with the curve? Or how would you describe it?
I think we're on pace. We're on pace. And again, I spoke to the director in Walpole about this actually a couple of times, including today. And they're right around, as far as capacity, right around us as well. They definitely didn't want to go close to 50%, especially having surrounding communities in the red and yellow. But no, I think we're steady, and that's what I want to be. I want to be steady with other libraries, and I think being open like that has actually, I've learned a lot, and I can share, what has worked and what hasn't worked to communities and other libraries that I'm maybe a little reluctant and to open to the public, or just want to stick to curbside until there's a vaccine.
Hey, Jess.
I just wanted to mention another thought that we had is we're not going to really advertise the big book sale like we have in the past. We'll probably do it more from like a blast to the friends and a blast to the patrons posted in the library, but we're not going to do like the big book sale finder or whatever. So we're trying to keep it kind of more of a community event.
Makes sense. Any other comments on the proposal to increase capacity back to 20%? We have a motion to approve Manny's proposal.
I make a motion to approve our capacity to 20%.
Yep, seconded by Christine. All in favor? All righty. Now on to new business. Sorry to get my agenda back up here. New business, Manny.
So I have one item under new business, and that is the hiring committee for the new, the official title is Senior Youth Services Librarian, which was formerly Margie Rossetti's position. We have a terrific pool of candidates that have applied for this position, and the committee currently is going through the process, and hopefully sooner rather than later, we have a candidate, and I will be reaching out to the board for their vote on a candidate that the committee selects.
Great. Excellent. Glad you've got a great pool of candidates and some big shoes to fill. Any questions for Manny on the process, or we'll eagerly await the outcome in the days ahead. All right. Any other topics we need to touch upon today before we adjourn?
I have a quick question. Manny, are there any changes to the guidelines for quarantining the materials? Or has that stayed about steady since we began?
It seems like every week there is a new study that comes out for libraries and materials. I have been, most libraries are looking at the Realm study, and we've been following that. So if every item is upright, those items only have to be quarantined for 3 days, 72 hours.
Okay.
If they are stacked, they are recommending 1 week for those items to be quarantined.
Okay.
So we've been going with that. Yeah, I
I
know.
gotta ask. Does the germ slide off when it's standing up? I mean,
It's
Gravity thing.
It's a gravity thing. Yeah, we
Yeah.
have the windows open in the community room. So now it's getting colder. So staff will have to wear their coat to go in there, and I
Is
guess
there any treatment like a disinfectant, or it's just the air and
just the air. Yeah.
dissipation of?
Yeah, they don't recommend using any sort of like spray, especially damaging the
Yeah.
pages. So most libraries are following that. I can tell you there are some libraries that are quarantining their items up to a month, which
Oh,
I mean, yeah,
okay.
that's a little difficult when you have items that are due and patrons are saying, "Hey, I returned this 3 weeks ago.
Right.
Why do I have
Yeah.
why is it still on my record?" So,
I'm sure the pages are hopping, trying
Yes.
to get all the books back and forth.
oh yeah.
And I saw that Siobhan is staying on through her remote learning, so I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, we have two awesome pages. We have Siobhan, who handles the adult section of the library, and then we also have Teddy,
Teddy, yeah.
who's in at Foxborough. He's a student at Foxborough High, and he handles the children's area, and he's fantastic too. We're
Great.
lucky we have two awesome kids,
Good. Good.
and they were both at Margie's party, which was nice too. That was
Yeah.
very sweet of them.
Yeah. Good. All right. Thanks, Manny.
any other questions or comments to have before we adjourn? I'll just add, Manny, appreciate the work you and the team are doing, continuing to go through this chapter for which there's no instruction manual.
Yeah. And no end. I don't think there's any end. That was one thing Margie and I joked about, is when this first happened, we were thinking, oh, by June, we'll be back. Everything will be back and open. Yeah, we'll have programs. We'll have the teddy bear picnic. It'll be fine. And we're in mid-October, and there's no end in sight.
No, not yet. But I think we're making good strides in making our services available to the community, and it's, I think, important to provide that sense of normalcy, although different, still a sense of normalcy in the library's role in the community. So appreciate that, Manny. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn our meeting today? Motion by Mr. Penders, seconded by Ms. Stone. All in favor? Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Thanks,
week.
everybody.
Good to see everyone.
Well.
See everyone soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Foxborough Cable Access.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.